Hey, everybody, welcome to Live Fully Lead Authentically. My name's Kurt Busch. I'm the co-owner of Brimstone Coaching Group, co-founder of the pod. Astute listeners are going to realize that half of our host party is not here today. Chris is not here. Instead, we've replaced Chris, kind of, not really, with a new friend of mine, Bobby Shelton. Bobby is a new friend of mine that I met on his podcast called the Self Leadership Lab. Had a great time, connected. There's so much overlap in the work we do and the way we think that we had to bring Bobby on here and let you, our listeners, know Bobby as well. Bobby, tell us who you are, man. What work do you do, and why do you get out of bed to do that work?
Yeah, awesome. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, and I hope I'm a suitable replacement for Chris. I've never met him. I hope to get that honor one day after listening to your podcast. He sounds like a great voice, so I hope I can fill in nicely for him today. But a little bit about myself and what I do. So I'm Bobby, and I basically get out of bed every day to try to make someone's life better. And Kurt, this comes from a period of my life where I was depressed, anxious, all the things that you don't want to be, and I was miraculously pulled out of this.
Mm.
And the work that I did and kind of the lessons that I learned, I just wanted to tell someone, hey, look, you don't have to get to this point. There is hope. Believe in yourself. So I've taken on the whole concept of self leadership theory, which means you can't lead yourself until you lead others. And I truly believe that. I think that so many of us have outsourced the leadership of ourselves to media, social media, sports, you name it. What can we do to claim that leadership back, and not in a selfish way, but in a selfless way? Because the more we take care of ourselves, and I know we're living in a world right now where they're saying self-care and, self-healing and all these things, and that's really important. But really, my focus is on what is the work that you're doing, and is it your purpose? And that doesn't mean that you have to quit your job or burn any bridges. You can flower where you're planted. You can be where your feet are right now. And I think if we can just grasp that simple concept, we're all going to live healthier, happier lives.
Yeah, Bobby, I love it. And like I'm reminded immediately why we overlap so much and why we gelled so well on your pod. Chris and I will say we're stealing this from someone else named Ruth Haley Barton. But we like to say if a leader is not investing in their own growth, their own maturity, they're disqualified from leading. And not in a wag your finger kind of way, in a gentle invitational way that like leading well begins with leading self and growing self and investing in that hard work. So I hear a lot of that in what you're saying. Bobby, you have a book that I think is really good. I'm holding it right here. If you can't see it on if you're listening on audio, you got to go YouTube, check it out. We'll also link it later. We'll talk a little bit more about that book later. But before we get to that, Bobby, you said something before I hit record that resonates deeply with me, and I want you to unpack it a little bit more. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
You,
Absolutely.
you talked about leadership being stewardship. Say more about that.
Yeah, this was a concept that was brought to me last week. I was sitting in a lecture, and the speaker said, hey, how about if we were getting it all wrong? And what we call leadership should be stewardship. And his point was that leadership is mostly about the leader. But
Mm.
stewardship is about the time, talent, treasure, abilities that you're manifesting and you're promoting throughout the way. And that like stuck with me. They always talk in coaching, hey, what's your aha moment? And I kind of cringe at that because I'm like, let my aha moment come naturally. Well, this truly was because I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I've thought a lot about stewardship, and a lot of people think it's religious connotations, and there's parables in the Bible and these sort of things but really, stewardship is your time, your talent, your treasure. How are you spending the gifts that you're being given? And ultimately, I believe that's what a leader's responsibility is, right? If we're in an organization or we're the head of our household or a teacher, whatever our leadership path is, we are given certain gifts. And our jobs as leaders is to take those gifts and use them wisely for the promotion of others and the promotion of the mission. But so often we forget about that, right? We talk a lot about doing. I want to do more. I want to have more accolades around my name. I was telling someone the other day that it's more important where I live in the DC metro area, how many letters you have before and after your name. And that's why when we kind of did this introduction, I just said, hey, we're Bobby, because I
Yeah.
don't want anything to prevent the stewardship of what I've been given. And what we've been given is only here for a time. We're just borrowing it. We're borrowing it from God. We're borrowing it from the universe. Wherever you think it comes from, it can all be taken away tomorrow. So I think if we take that kind of look at the way we lead others and the way we lead ourselves, what are we doing with our time, our talents, our treasures, and how are we best serving, others through those versus selfishly trying to just gain more and more and more for what reason, right? It's like you can collect all this stuff that you want, but if you don't do anything with it, then what good is it?
Yeah, yeah. I love the idea of stewardship. I mean, most listeners know Chris and I's background is in kind of pastoral ministry work. And yeah, I mean, stewardship is a beautiful concept. Even if there's not sort of a faith-based lean to a listener's worldview, there is something beautiful about saying the good work I'm doing is not just for me. It's for my family, my community, those around me. Um, can I play devil's advocate a little bit,
Love
Bob?
it.
Um, I don't believe this. That's why I say it's devil's advocate. But what if I'm over here? I'm a leader. I'm climbing the ladder. I'm close to that next big promotion that's gonna like get me my boat. You know, those sorts of things. Like, why would I ever worry about anyone else? Why wouldn't I just like lead and churn and burn and get what's mine, if you will?
The first question I would ask you is, are you satisfied at night when you put your head on the pillow? And probably the answer in that scenario would be like, no, I'm not satisfied until I get my boat. But how about when the boat's not enough?
Yeah,
How about when the yacht's not enough? How about when the container ship or whatever you go up from there is
yeah,
not enough? And I think that is why it's important to care about people, because people give you that ever-ending joy, purpose, meaning in life that we're all searching for,
yeah,
whereas things never will. Things will always evaporate, and there's always something better. I mean, you drive a Lamborghini. Well, there's a new Lamborghini that comes out. Like there, in the army, we used to say it's a self-licking ice cream cone. I mean, you can never get to the root of what you're going at if you keep chasing more. And that's why I think serving other people. And you know what, Kurt, this is coming from my own personal journey. I used to be the boat guy. I used to always want more. I was always, keeping up with the Joneses. And that didn't bring me satisfaction. That didn't bring me happiness. In fact, it did the absolute opposite. I was never good enough. Imagine the scenario is, man, you've got a boat and you're out there enjoying it. Well, you should be out on the water enjoying it, but you're thinking about, well, this one just came by and it's way nicer than mine.
yeah,
Like that is such an empty feeling. And and part of self-leadership theory is your self-talk. And I would also encourage someone who has those kind of thoughts, like, what are you saying to yourself? Are you enough? Do
yeah.
you encourage yourself or do you discourage yourself? I mean, when you get in that loop where you're like, I'm not enough, I'm worthless, I don't have this, I don't take a second to look back. I'm not one of these guys that says, hey, look back too often. But, a concept came to me a few months ago where what would your 10-year-old version of yourself say about you? Your 18-year-old version of yourself? I bet we've all surpassed our wildest expectations. So when you live for someone else, and the tricky thing about stewardship and taking care of other people is you don't always get feedback. You may encourage someone or lift someone up today, and they may never say it to you. So the cool thing about it, though, is once you start doing it and mean it, you're going to get intrinsic motivation. So you're going to be fired up, regardless if you get accolades or not, because you're happy, you're healthy, you've got everything you need in front of you.
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, it reminds me like I have a baseball coach that has no idea that he impacted me when I was a kid. Like he impacted me because he saw me as a human, as a kid, right?
Mm.
And like that's the sort of and he does know because I told him a couple years ago, but like I think those are the sorts of leadership like achievements that go far greater. You know, like imagine someone comes to you today and said, "Hey, you remember that thing you did 20 years ago?" No, I don't remember it. I was just kind of living my life, but it had this huge impact, way better than the boat on the lake, I would imagine.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I'll interrupt you for a second because I remember the song from when I was a kid, and I don't know who sang it. I don't know the song or anything, but it was about a man who went to heaven and thinking he hadn't done much on earth, and all these people came up to him and said, "Hey, you saw me, like your baseball
uh,
coach saw you." And at the end of the day, don't we all want to be seen? And if we're
yeah,
leaders, don't we want to let others be seen? Because we've been seen enough. Let's face it. You are a pastor. I'm
yeah,
speaking in place. I get seen way more than I need to be seen.
that's fair.
But take someone who's not seen, bring them out in the light, because imagine what they've got. Maybe they're fearful. Maybe they have imposter syndrome or whatever. But if you can take them out of that hole, not only can they make your life better, but they can make every single one around them's better. And I can't think of any any greater gift of a leader than to elevate someone who was not able to elevate themselves.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, Bobby. Let me ask you this. Chris and I will run into a lot of people that we talk about like measuring success being, measuring the way that we align with our values and align with who and how we want to be. Like that success, if we can align those things together in our work, um, oftentimes then people will say something like, okay, well, that's opposed to ambition, right? That ambition and aligning values are opposed to each other. I actually don't think that's true. What would you say to someone when you say, leadership is actually more of a stewardship posture? How do you hold that intention with ambition to say, yeah, you can still be ambitious in your career. You still can strive to grow and strive to learn and strive to be excellent, uh, and still kind of hold that intention with stewardship. What would you say to somebody that questioned the role of ambition in that?
Yeah, firstly, first of all, I'd say they're complete opposites the way that thinking was portrayed because ambition to help others, ambition to promote your values is great.
Yeah.
And if that rewards come back to you, financial or otherwise, then who am I to say don't do it? In fact, you said earlier, a lot of people don't try to better themselves as leaders. Well, I think you have to have ambition. I mean, how many medical doctors or PhDs or anything that you run around and they stop learning?
Yep.
Well, you could say, oh, well, they were ambitious. They went and got a degree. Yeah, that comes with success. I would say those people are not ambitious. I would say those people had a finite version of themselves that they defined through an activity. Whereas if your values and what you want to live by every day is your ambition, I think I think it's limitless what could happen to you. And so, yeah, I definitely think. And another thing I would say too, I would caution people when you think about ambition, a lot of times that comes with them, well, I've got to go get a new job, or I've got to go completely up in my life, my family to go do something else. And I'm a firm believer in being where your feet are. So
Mm,
you can live your values, you can live your ambition wherever you are. I mean, if you want to change careers, by all means, go ahead and do it.
yeah.
But don't be dissatisfied with where you're at right now because you're going to miss so many opportunities along the way. And sometimes the success we all seek is right in front of us all along. That whole grass is greener on the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
Well, make your grass greener on your side of the fence. Like really work your values into it. And by all means, if you're successful and the Lord blesses you with riches or whatever, think of it this way. It just fuels your ambition even more. And you can just make that outreach bigger and bigger and bigger. So I know a lot of people think, hey, I've got to cut people down. I've got to step up people as I climb the ladder, knock them off if possible. You really don't. And I tell you what, most of the successful leaders that I talk to, either on my show or just listen to, on other podcasts or lectures or whatever, they found their Rosetta Stone to success when they stop focusing on themselves and start focusing on others and the promotion of whatever they're involved with.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that so much, Bobby. Thanks for letting me be devil's advocate for a little bit. It is interesting how ambition is sort of lumped into like a negative connotation. It's interesting how the word ambition can be taken as the guy seeking the Lamborghini or the new Lamborghini. And by guy, I mean male or female, right? The professional seeking the next big thing. Ambition can be seen as the person that's going to kick somebody down the ladder to get ahead, right? But I actually don't think I don't think that has to be the limit of our understanding of ambition.
Yeah, and I certainly hope it's not. And you mentioned my book earlier, and that's kind of the whole point of this, right? The hard is work that is in line with your values, is what you want to be doing. And that doesn't have a price tag on it, doesn't have a salary or a title connected to it. It's what do you want to do every single day? If you're laying your head on the pillow every night wishing you had done something else, then you're probably in what I call the easy hard. You're working for the approval of others. You're working for the worldly gains. The things that we see are successful on Instagram. And let's be honest. I think the ultimate root of self leadership is what's important to you.
Mm,
I'm sure, Kurt, you have people or you've worked with people who seemingly have nothing, right? They have a job that doesn't pay them a lot, but they're super happy. And you're like, man, did they figure it out and I didn't? I can't answer that question. I just know that those kind of people are like role models that I want to put in my life because they've got what they've got. They're happy with it and they don't let it alter their, it's funny when we first met, it was right when Kyle Busch, and I know it's no association to you, but his brother's Kurt
Uh,
Busch, and I'm a NASCAR fan. And, Kyle passed, I think he was 43 ish,
42.
and
He was young.
42, yeah, young man. And I thought about it as a 48-year-old myself. I was like, am I living life? Because he lived his life. Like he went out there and he promoted racing. Sure, he had a great time. He just really lived his life, but his life was short. And in the Stoic philosophy, they say we're not promised tomorrow, and they says that in the Bible. We're really not promised tomorrow. How about if we're miserable today, and this is our last day?
Yeah.
We never know when that's going to be, but one day will be our last day. So why not live the happiest we can be? And I have a theory. It's not proven. Someone will prove me wrong. Please, you can email me up. We'll put it in the show notes if Kurt allows it. Let me know. But I don't think anyone who follows their purpose and follows their bliss is going to be unsuccessful in their mental mind. Maybe in the physical way that others perceive them, but let's be honest, folks, we think a lot about what others perceive us at, but they're not thinking about you. I mean, think of all the people you ran into today before you listened to this podcast. Are you thinking about them now? You might have at the moment because they were in front of you, but after you left, you went about your life. So if we live our lives every day about like, what does Kurt think about me? What does Bobby think about me? We're never gonna get there because we never know. And is no matter how hard I try, I can't know what you're thinking right
Yeah.
now.
And you can't do anything about it. And I can't do anything about what you think about me. I mean, I think that's where I resonate so much is not only can I not know what you're thinking about me, I also can't change it, you know?
Mm.
I can control what I can control. Yeah, I love that so much. I love the way you talk about purpose. Um, I had a coach at a pivotal point in my life, Bobby, say to me, and I'm a little embarrassed to admit this out loud, but he said to me, "Look, you do a certain part of your job because you love it, and you do a certain part of your job because you have to, and though he would say to pay the bills. That's true. All of us, every single one of us, has this ratio of work that I do because I love it, and work that I do because I have to pay the bills. And this coach said to me, "You know that you're in charge of that ratio." And as a 9 Enneagram people pleaser, I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? I get to have agency over this? And I think that to me is similar to what you just said about purpose is sure, bills have to be paid. We all have to kind of reckon with what that ratio looks like. And food is expensive and I get it. Rent and mortgages are expensive. And at the end of the day, like seeking to align with our purpose is the sort of silver bullet to contentment and fulfillment. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm glad you brought this up because I've never put this out, but I used to hate my job. That Sunday night, oh, I got to go to work tomorrow. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. Well, that was my perception of it. One
Mm.
day it hit me like a 2x4 in the forehead. And it's like, you know what? I get to go to my job because it allows for me to do everything I want. So even though sometimes during the 9 to 5, I'm doing things I don't want to do or not what I think is efficient or effective, that doesn't really matter because the joy doesn't come from the work that I'm doing at that moment. The joy comes at what it provides. It allows me to come here today and do this podcast. It allows me to have my own podcast, write a book, all these things. And once I had that kind of like perception shift in my mind, it was like a game changer for me because you're right. We do control it.
Bobby, let me ask you about your book. Is that okay?
Sure.
So again, for the listener, easy hard versus hard hard. I'll put a link in the show notes on how to find it and how to buy it and how to get your own copy. You talk about these two things. So I want to start with easy hard. You say this easy hard is the work that demands your time and energy, gives you the illusion of growth, but ultimately pulls you away from who you really want to become. Say more. Keep going, Bobby. Like put that in another put that in a sentence for us. Like how did you come about this? What does it mean to you? How do you think about this?
Yeah, yeah. So easy hard was my way of defining pretty much everything we've talked about. It was me not living for my purpose. It was the purpose of others. It was the next degree, the next certification, whatever I thought I needed to do to climb the ladder to make myself feel. And it got so bad to a point where I started things. And this initially, this whole book, this whole journey started because 6 years ago, I weighed in at 354 pounds. And it's not about the weight. It's about what got me to this. My wife one day told me, she said, "You're the angriest person I know."
Mm.
And I have to say, it was done with so much love. I mean, you think of all the things your wife said to you, and we've almost been married 20 years. That was the most love. And I know it sounds terrible, but when she said that, it got me thinking. And I was ready for a change because I was at rock bottom, Kurt. I didn't, I would often say to myself, if I don't wake up tomorrow, the world would be a better place. I
Wow.
realized after I vocalized that to people, most people don't talk like that. So,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying it was all because of advancement. It wasn't because of ambition. It was because of my relationship with ambition. I let it replace who I was to the point where I didn't know who I was. So
Yeah.
easy hard to me was a simple like army kind of thing. And for those who, I don't know if any of your listeners like David Goggins, but he always says stay hard. David Goggins was a big inspiration to me because he has a similar story where he kind of was chasing these demons and got himself from, weighing 300 pounds to making Navy SEALs the next month or being in selection the next month. And so easy hard for me is anything that stands in my way, any obstacle that most of the time I create for myself mentally, physically, spiritually, that prevents me from being who I am.
Mm.
I say this a lot, but you'll meet people in their 60s, 70s, 80s who say, I feel like I did when I was 14 or 10 or whatever number they give me. And that's because you are the same person.
Mm.
Unfortunately for me, it took me from whatever I had started outsourcing my being, my desires to about 42 years old to find it. But at the end of the day, I'm the same Bobby I can remember when I was like 4 or 5 years old, the thoughts I had in my head and that I didn't want to see people hurt and whatever. So it's my simple way of saying easy hard is going after things for others and not for yourself. And I say that a lot. A lot of people talk about doing and being. So think of easy hard as your doing side. I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this to advance or to elevate myself. But it all comes full circle in our conversation. Often those times aren't the things that we give back to others. In fact, we might withhold information. We might withhold our skills. We might do the opposite of stewardship. We might, just kind of lock these things away because we think if I give this to Kurt, he's going to surpass me. Well, that would be my greatest joy in the world if I can give somebody something and they surpass me because it's not about me, because my spirit is about giving and not receiving. And when you're the opposite of that, you're stuck in that easy hard. So I know that was a long-winded answer.
No, that's great. That's great. So here's what stirs up in me that our audience might resonate with. And I'm going to throw this out there and I want you to tell me if there's overlap here or if I'm missing the bus here. Because if I'm missing the bus, I want you to tell me I'm missing the bus. We when we work with groups, we'll often talk about technical problems and adaptive problems. So technical problems is like I have a problem in front of me or something that needs a solution, and I already have the answer. I just have to find it, and we're going to do it, and it's going to be maybe difficult, but easy in the long run. So this is like we have a problem. I'm going to fire somebody and replace them. That's a technical problem. It's easy to do. It's easy to do. We think we know the answer. We don't really get curious. We don't have to learn from it. We don't really have to grow. We don't really have to like push boundaries. And we, can walk away and say, "Oh, we did that," but it's probably not actually solving anything. Is that is there some overlap there in that mindset?
Yeah, and I've never thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right. Like if you're just kind of fixing a problem temporarily, it sounds like in that scenario, then yeah, maybe it is. And again, you start doing that more and more, and it starts building, right? None of us lost
Yeah.
our identity
Yeah.
overnight. It's like, you outsource the way I think. I mean, how many people give you headlines as sound bites? They've never read the article. And
Yeah.
it's very frustrating. I try not to pay attention to news or anything like that, but sometimes you'll see a headline and you want to click on it, and then the article has nothing to do
Yeah.
with the actual thing that
Yeah.
they're talking about. So you're going around spewing facts that aren't facts. You think that it's true, So the same is with your problem solving. If you just keep hitting the easy button or putting a band-aid on it, well, maybe you have a gushing chest wound and a
Yeah.
band-aid's not going to cut it, right? You
Yeah.
need to do that deeper exploration. So yeah, that's a different way of thinking about it. But yeah, I definitely think it could be applicable to the technical problems you told me about.
So you just said something that stirred up something in me. You said, like this giving up who you are is a long journey that nobody wakes up in the morning and says, in your words, "Oh man, I really want to pull away from who I really want to be." Like Brene Brown would say, we're doing the best we can with what we've got. I genuinely believe nobody wakes up and says, "I want to suck today" or "I want to lose myself." Why do you think we continue to put like why do and I say we because I think I'm gonna put myself in, like I like easy hard. Easy hard sometimes feels good, feels like I'm accomplishing. So I'm gonna put myself in this we as well. Why do we keep doing easy hard? Like why do we allow this to chip away at who we are?
I think it's in the name itself, the easy part of it.
Mm,
It
yeah,
seems difficult, but really it's easy, right? It's very easy to catch a headline and talk about it at the water cooler. It's hard to sit there and wrestle with an idea like this stewardship thing. I mean, I know we're talking about it today on the podcast, but it's something I will wrestle with for a long time. And I'll read, and it's funny. It's like once it comes into your awareness, you start seeing other things that apply to it and you think about it. And then you talk to people, and you struggle with the idea. And I think a lot of that times is you don't look like the expert. And especially in the leadership realm, the leader never really wants to look like he knows less than the person that they're leading, right? The follower. And I think that's why we do it. Plus, another thing too is it's so socially acceptable right now.
yeah,
You said earlier about a baseball. Well, I don't know who the greatest baseball player is now, but when I was a kid and following baseball, like Randy Johnson was like just a fireball pitcher. And maybe you say, "Well, I'm not successful because I want to be like Randy Johnson." Well, maybe you're not 6'8". Maybe you
yeah,
can't throw a slider like he could or a curveball like he could. But
yeah.
what can you do in your area? And I think what we do is we denigrate the skills that we've got
Mm,
because we want to be someone else, but we don't really see where we're at. And it's sadly part of society. I mean, and it's been
yeah,
aggravated. We're in the same age class ish.
yeah.
But like I tell people all the time, when I started college, I didn't need a computer. It wasn't required. Well,
Mm,
think of all the information now you have and all the influence. And I hate that word influencer because who are they influencing? They're only influencing those who allow them to influence them. Sure, you can learn from them, but do you really want to be influenced by anyone other than yourself? Because you don't know their values, you don't know their drive. There's all these male influencer now. I don't know if you watch them or not,
I
but
avoid them so hard.
it's so unhealthy because it's all about material success,
Yeah.
but yet at the same time, they're banging it out of the park. I mean, they're hitting homers every time they go to the plate. And I think a lot of times we compare, and they say comparison's the thief of all joy. Well, nothing could be truer. And I can tell you this, if you're starting to compare yourself to people all the time, you're probably an easy hard. And it might be time to take a self-analysis, self-evaluation of your soul and your spirit and say, hey, am I the person I want to be?
Yeah, yeah, I love that, Bobby. Let's go to hard for a little bit. Um, Here's what you say about hard. The challenge of hard work often isn't in doing it. It's admitting how you truly want to spend your time, energy, and life. I think you're reading my mail a little bit here, Bobby, because that does feel like the challenge. That does feel real. Like, why does it feel so real, and why is it so hard?
Yeah, because it's so unnatural, right? We're so programmed to do what we don't want to do all the time. I mean, simple things of just think of most people's jobs. I mean, there's hours that you have to be there, whether it's core hours or 9 to 5 job if you work a more traditional job. And over time, we start believing that that's who we are. And when we struggle, when we find what we want to do, number one, the time isn't convenient for us. The path is unknown because there's no check mark to, hey, what are your values and how do you want to live your life? So you have to kind of go off textbook. There's no script to it. So I think it becomes very difficult and it's daunting because you're going to be swimming the other way most of the time, right? And not to be like the anti-establishment guy, but a lot of times, well, you and I were talking before we filmed today about all the information we get about podcasts. It needs to be
Yeah,
this, it needs to be this, it needs to be this. Well, who says?
Yeah.
If that's not what you want to do, then why do it? And I tell you what, we all fight things like that for a long time. I don't know about you and your podcast journey, but like you read all these things, you listen to all these other podcasters, you read books about podcasting, you're obsessed with what it is. And then eventually you listen to one of your podcasts and you're like, this isn't my voice. This
Yeah.
isn't at all what I started this for. And
Yeah.
I think that's what the hard heart is like what honestly do you want to do every day? And again, I want to really encourage people. I want to reemphasize that doesn't mean you burn the boats.
Yeah.
You can do wherever you want to be, where you're at right now. Just change it. Like I'm a coach, went through coaching certifications, all that stuff, right? With a whole bunch of other people because you got to do this in a group.
Yeah.
Most coaches want to quit their job. 9 times out of 10, when I talk to coaches, they're like, yeah, I'm going to quit my job on this day and go full into coaching. Well, you're missing it. You're now in a work environment. You can coach every second of every day. You can observe people. You can really start charting your path because, and then you can understand, is this what I want to do?
Yeah.
Now I don't really want to be a coach. Sure, I will coach someone. If I can help someone in that manner, I'm glad I have that as a tool. Maybe that's a great way to think about it. It just hit me.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of times this is just a toolbox. I mean, I'm sure you do some home renovations around your house and you probably have multiple screwdrivers. Oh, no, no, not at all. Okay. But you know someone who does, right? You have multiple screwdrivers, but you grab the right one for the right job.
Yeah.
And I think that when we don't get into hard, we try to do everything with the same tool. Is it
Mm.
the corporate ladder? Is it the education ladder? Is it the certification ladder? Well, maybe all of those things, just take them for what they are.
Yeah.
They're evolving your thinking.
Yeah.
And a lot of the attempts that I took on during this journey, I started them, and my superpower is I finish things. My super anti power is that I finish things too, right? A lot of times I put these blinders on and I don't question, is this healthy for me? I think I talk about in the book, if someone stops smoking, do we say that's a bad thing? No, sometimes quitting is okay, but
Yeah.
then that also takes a deeper exploration. Am I quitting because it's hard, or am I quitting because it's not aligned with my values? And
Yeah.
again, those questions that you have to ask yourself, most of us don't want to hear the answer. And I'm not saying most of us and excluding me because I'm always asking myself questions. And 9 times out of 10, I may not want to, I think I don't want to hear the answer, but I really ultimately do want to hear the answer.
Yeah. Bobby, you said something that resonates. I don't know if you know, I don't know what you know about Chris and I, but we went to seminary late in life, and we've kind of swam in the church worlds for a long time. And one thing that's so common in church world is similar to like what you just said about people that maybe want to be a coach, is that there are a lot of people who say, I want to be in ministry. I want to be in ministry. I want to be in ministry. And maybe they have a 9 to 5, or maybe they work in a factory or whatever it is. And they kind of get stuck in this like, well, I'm like wasting my life because I don't have a vocational ministry job. And what seems so obvious from the outside is like, you can do it now, right? Be present, be where you're at, flex those muscles, try things on. Like, don't wait to find some alignment with what you find important. And, like church world's a little different. I think Chris and I would both say like those people are doing more ministry than we were doing when we were on church staffs, like that's real life where they're at. But yeah, I think that resonates. The idea of being present, the idea of not waiting to try something on and not burning the boats. I think that's so good. Let me ask you this. There's a Harvard Business Journal report from a couple years ago that said something like 15% of Americans consider themselves self-aware, which is shockingly low to me. Um, I guess if I'm in that other portion that doesn't know myself, I wouldn't consider myself aware. Like, how do I begin to do this work of defining like where do I want to give my energy? What brings me life? Where do I want to focus my time and my work? How do I begin to know these things to even do the hard?
The most simple thing I can offer is, what do you think about when you have nothing left to think about?
Mm,
At the end of the day, right before you put your head on the pillow and you say, man, I wish I would do this. I've told myself I'll go to the gym, I'll eat healthy or whatever. It could be a million things.
yeah,
I think that right there is the first step to being self-aware. Like
yeah,
what have I told myself for so long. And, the human brain, if I tell myself I'm going to start working out tomorrow and I don't, well, then the next day it's going to be harder. The next week it's going to be even harder. The next month. And that's what people get in this do loop. And this all goes back into the slow and steady. And a lot of people say, hey, take inch steps. Well, do something. Whatever you think about tonight when you go to sleep, right before you go to sleep, do that thing tomorrow. If you need to jot it down, do it. But if not, wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to do this thing, and then do it. But only say that to yourself if you truly believe it. And with self-awareness, I think it takes a lot of time. And you're going to have to start small, and you're going to have to get these little wins, and you're going to build up, build up, build up. And then your thoughts are going to be deeper, and your problems aren't going to be at the end of the day. They might be whatever rattles around on your run, or, when you're driving your kids to the soccer game or whatever. But I think that constant questioning of yourself, like, be your own coach. Ask yourself the own questions. I heard one time that like a therapist or a coach basically reveals in us what we're afraid to say to ourselves. Well,
Mm.
stop being afraid of yourself. Take that first step. Give yourself permission to be a little bit more self-aware. And again, I don't know how they measure these things per the study you said,
Yeah.
but you'll know.
Yeah.
It's objective, and there's all these theories: 1% growth, 10% growth. I don't care. It could be 0.00001% growth.
Yeah.
You'll know it, you'll feel better, and then build on that self-awareness, and then start observing yourself every single day. And don't beat yourself up. Like, let's say you want to get less angry when people cut you off in traffic. Well, let's say you got angry 10 times today and it's 9 tomorrow. That's progress. Don't
Yeah.
think about the 9 times you lost to yourself. Think about that one time that
Yeah.
you did what you want to do, and then build on that. And I think that's the key to becoming more self-aware.
Yeah, if Chris was here, he would say practice makes progress. Practice
Yeah, I
doesn't
like
make
that.
perfection. Practice makes progress. And I love the 9 out of 10. Celebrate that one. I love that a whole lot. It's just so, I mean, I taught myself how to play drums during COVID, and I would love to be Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Guess what? I'm not, but I'm okay, right? And I think that's the idea. Like we all just want to be perfect at things right away, but that idea of like giving ourselves permission to celebrate the little wins or the 1% or the 10% or whatever, it just feels so important.
Yeah, no, I like it. I would even add to that, do it consistently. Do the practice, but do it consistently, because Rome wasn't built in a day, nor will any change you want to make in your behavior. And there's plenty of books on that, Atomic Habits, Tiny Habits, you name it. They all talk about the power of compounded action.
Yeah.
And just like money in a bank, you start with $1, and in 20 years it might be in this world it might be $1.20. But you get my point. The
Yeah.
thing is you've got to do it consistently. And people ask me all the time, Kurt, like, what's the key to losing weight? Well, the key is get out there and do something every day. And when you don't feel like it, go out there and do it. When you feel like it, go out there and do it. It,
Yeah.
it, it's so simple, but we want to make it harder on ourselves. And really, like, you find that purpose, that alignment, that drive, and make sure it's yours, folks. Again, this is all about intrinsic motivation, not extrinsic. It does, you might get extrinsic rewards out of it, but if you don't fire, and that's why I hate the word motivation. I'm going to go see a motivational speaker tonight. No, you're not. You're going to go to somebody who may inspire you, but
Yeah.
only you can go out there and do it. And inspiration will beat motivation every step of the way. So make sure you truly want to do it and commit to it.
Yeah, that's really good. Bobby, let me shift a little bit. I'm going to ask a little more of a personal question, if that's okay.
Sure.
Um, this work you're doing, the book you've got, like, what's your hope for the work that you're doing? Like, 5 years from now, what's good for you? Like, how will you know when you look back? Like, yep, I was aligned. I've met the goals. Like, what are your hopes for your work with people?
Yeah, I think my hopes are very simple. If I can make one person's life better every single day, that's enough reward. And sure, not every day you know that if that's true or false. Some days you don't even see people. So I don't know at this point. Like, a lot of speakers will say, "Oh, I want to be in this many halls and this many books sold and all that kind of stuff." None of that really matters to me, Kurt. What matters to me is when occasionally I'll get a text from someone that says, hey, I was thinking about something you said on a podcast, or I was thinking about something I read in your book, and I'd like to discuss it more. I'd like to become a better person. And I see this in and really, I know that sounds kind of obtuse and kind of whatever, but it's so funny. I've been an impatient guy. I've always been a what's next. In fact, even in my elementary, I think it was kindergarten report card, it said my problem was I always want to know what's next.
Wow.
And at this point in my life, I'm so happy not worrying about what's next. I just need to go out every day and learn, grow. In the Bible, it says Jesus grew in wisdom, stature, and favor with God and man. Like that success for me is if in 5 years from today, I've grown in all those areas. I've built my body, I've built my mind, I've built my relationship, both with God, myself, and others. Man, just imagine. And again, it's like it's kind of like I'm rebuilding this. So ask me in 5 years, what I say, and it might be different,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
right now it's like every day is a gift.
yeah.
And I am truly just grateful that I can have a voice that anyone will listen to at any time. And again, it's not for glory for me. It's like I don't want anyone to be like me at 42, man. I don't want to be anyone like me last February, where I still was in the progress of healing and I couldn't get out of a chair. I told my wife I'm not standing up until I had give myself permission to like myself.
Mm,
Well, I'm so happy. Not only did I give myself permission, I'm also very happy that somebody else whose goal was to make one life better called me shortly thereafter and asked me the simple question that we ask all the time, Bobby, how are you doing? And I said, you know what? I'm not well. I want to be well. I don't know how to be well. Well,
yeah.
that guy was a leader, a selfless leader. He stewarded his talents, his network, got me in a program, and look, now we're here talking today. And I'm like going back to the smoking analogy. I'm like a reformed smoker now. I want to rip cigarettes out of people's hands because it's all there for the taking.
Yeah.
I say this on my show a lot. I believe in you. Believe in yourself as much as I do and start making these changes. So, again, another long winded answer, but that's what you get from
Yeah.
me.
Are you a Ted Lasso fan by any chance, Bobby?
Man, I love that. I love that show. I'm 0% soccer, which is probably
Same.
not popular in this World Cup days that we're in now. But yeah, I mean, what great leadership lessons we take from him. If we could all lead
Oh,
like Ted Lasso, man.
oh, Bobby, the way you talk about believing in yourself, there's the line where someone says, do I believe I believe in ghosts or something like that?" And Ted's like, "Well, I just really want them to believe in themselves." And like, I just it's that mentality that you stirred up. I just love it. But um, okay, so Bobby, your answer there when you said, "I don't really care about how many books I sell or how many halls I speak in," that posture, when I first stumbled across that with you, that's when I knew like this is our people, and like the royal hour, right? You just that posture is really clear in you. It doesn't. It just feels real. It doesn't feel like you're putting that on for a podcast. It feels like that's who you are. So I'm grateful to get to hear that response. Um, how do people find you? And I don't know, like give a final send off if you want to.
Yeah, yeah. I'll do the where you can find me first. Where you can find it Self Leadership Lab, which Kurt will be on a guest very, very soon. Well, we filmed it. I just got to get it out there. Also Self Leadership Lab on socials. Probably some of my best work is now coming on Substack, which is also the Self Leadership Lab. You see a theme here. You can also find me on LinkedIn, and we'll put the link there as well. But my final send off is if you're thinking about your life, maybe it's as simple as easy hard versus hard hard for you. And once you identify it, again, I repeated this a lot on the show, but don't burn the bridges. Figure out how you can live where you're at today and make yourself a better person. And again, give yourself permission. So often when we get trapped in the visions of success and grandeur of things, we stop giving ourselves permission and we actually give permission to someone else. Grab that back, live your life, and just love yourself because two greatest commandments in the Bible to go a little bit spiritual on you all is love the Lord your God, love your neighbor as yourself. And I think so many of us have forgotten the as yourself part.
Yeah.
Grab it, take it, win it. And if you need help, please email me. It's bshelton at battlecatcoaching.com. I'm not going to sell you anything, but I'm here to help you all because I want to help others people be better. And again, I don't even have a coaching practice. It's just an email address I have, but please reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to discuss this further with anyone who needs help.
Yeah, thanks so much, Bobby. This is just a gift. I mean, we've said that we want guests on our podcast that have enough overlap with our philosophy, and also then have a unique perspective. And I think your sort of self-leadership perspective is really helpful. So thanks for giving us the time, man. It's been a pleasure.